Hi again, welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along, the past 2 weeks I've been doing a series about learning how to Leyn, or learning how to chant from the Torah. Last week we got started and we went over the Tevir Formula, the Sof Pasuk Formula, and the Zakef Katon Formula. This week we're going to continue, we're going to keep going, and we're going to go over a few more formulas today. And we're going to go over what they look like, what they sound like, a few general notes about their placement in a verse, and, different patterns that you can use to recognize them. And as always, how to practice. So let's get started. So we're going to begin with the Tevir formula and its variants. The main part of this formula is the Tevir, and the variants are what comes before it. So what does it look like? Well, you're going to have two possible versions of this formula. The first, and the one that is a bit more complicated, is the Darga Tevir formula. What does it look like? The Darga looks like a vertical zigzag, or like a really kind of squished S that looks almost like a really weird reversed Z underneath the word on the second to last or last syllable. The Tevir, on the other hand, looks fairly familiar. We've gone over the mercha and how the mercha looks like the bottom right quarter of a circle. The Tevir is basically a mercha with a dot inside it. And that is the Tevir. You'll find it underneath the word, and it'll usually be underneath the second to last or the last syllable. So what does it sound like? It sounds like this. Darga Tevir. So is there anything else that you should know about this? No, not really. That's just one variant. The next variant is the simpler variant. It is mercha Tevir. What does it look like? The mercha looks like the bottom right quarter of a circle, and the Tevir looks like a mercha, but with a dot in it. So what does it sound like? Well, fair warning, the mercha in the mercha Tevir formula does not sound like the mercha in the etnachta or sof pasuk formula. Instead, it serves a different function here. It's actually a simplified version of the darga. The darga sounds like this. Darga. The mercha removes the stepwise motion. So it goes mercha. So what does the whole thing sound like? It sounds like this. Mercha Tevir. Is there anything else you need to know? Well, sometimes a munach will show up in front of either the darga or the mercha. What do you do if that happens? This is what it sounds like. Munach darga tevir. That same munach is also used with the mercha. It sounds like this. Munach mercha Tevir. What else is there to know about this particular formula? Well, unlike the etnachta and sof pasuk and the zakef katon, the Tevir can show up by itself. And that's it for the Tevir formula. As always, repeat this to yourself, internalize it, pick out the passages in the Chumash that match up with these marks, and practice it beyond the words darga, mercha, tevir. So we've gone over the Tevir formula. What comes next? What comes next is the Gershayim. The Gershayim is a standalone mark that appears often at the beginning of a clause. So, what does it look like? It looks like two top left quarters of a circle duplicated and right next to each other. So Gershayim in Hebrew means two Gereshes. It's Gershayim, which usually is connected to the number 2. What does it sound like? It sounds like this. Gershayim. Pretty simple. You're going briefly up, and then you're kind of just lingering there and going up and down. How do you remember this? Beyond looking at the Chumash and picking out what verse has this mark in it, depending on your synagogue, sometimes your synagogue will do more than just the first paragraph of the Shema out loud. Sometimes they do the third paragraph out loud also. How does it start? It starts like this. Vayidaber Adonai El Moshe Lemor Daber. That daber, that very first daber, after the first kind of line in that third paragraph, is a Gershayim. This is one of the reasons that one of the ways I recommend practicing is by going to the Shema in your Siddur, if it has the trope in it, and actively doing what you're used to doing out loud. Because when you do that, you're able to kind of pick out the patterns that you don't realize that you've been slowly learning all along. So that's the Gershayim formula. The next formula that's on our list is the Revia Formula, or depending on what marks you're looking at and the names, it might be called Revia. The Revia will often stand either on its own, or it'll come with 2 munachs before it. So what does that whole 2 munachs and a Revia formula look like? Well, as we went over in the first part of this series, the munach looks like a reversed or backwards L underneath the word. So you're going to have 2 words that have that backwards L underneath them on the second to last or last syllable. And then the Revia looks like a diamond on top of the word. It looks like a filled-in diamond on top of any syllable, but it's usually, again, on the second to last or last syllable. Now, what is there to know about the Revia? The Revia means 4, and like how it means 4, the mark is a diamond, which has 4 corners. So what else is there to know about it? Well, the pattern for a Revia, just like it means 4, and just like the mark is a diamond, the actual melody only has 4 notes going down. So what does it sound like? This is what it sounds like. Munach, munach, Revia. Notice how that Revia, it's not doing anything fancy. It's just going down by 4 steps. The diamond, 4 corners. The melody, 4 steps. That's really all there is to know about the Revia. How do you practice? Beyond the internalizing and looking in the Chumash, if you're having trouble kind of getting the hang of this particular formula, I recommend just going with your fingers and going 4, 3, 2, 1, or I guess backwards, 4, 3, 2, 1. And by doing that, you'll slowly get the hang of figuring out the number of steps and the number of pitches that you need to go down. This also applies, by the way, for previous formulas like the Gershayim. Gershayim. It goes down and up 3 steps. If it's easier to think of the steps with numbers, go ahead and do that. I find it makes it easier. Or instead of saying Revia, go 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And those are just a few tips and tricks for getting through this particular one. Again, like I mentioned for the Gershayim and how you can still do the finger trick with the Gershayim, you could also do the number trick. Gersha 3, 2, 1, 2, 3. And as you go through it, the pattern will become more familiar and you'll be able to get it. I almost forgot. The Revia will always be on its own, and it might have 1 or 2 munachs next to it. I sang the formula with the two munachs next to it. Which munach do you use if there's only one? If there's only one munach next to the revi'i, you use the second one. So it'd be munach revi'i. So that is the revi'i formula. So we're reaching the final formula for this particular video, and this is another series that usually show up together, and that is the Kadma ve'azla. What does the Kadma ve'azla look like? Well, the Kadma, like I mentioned in the Zakef Katon formula in the first part of this series, is the top right quarter of a circle, and you will find that above the word on the second to last or last syllable. And it sounds exactly the same. The azla looks like the top left quarter of a circle, but there's only one. It is not the Gershayim, it is just one. It is azla. And it will always be on the second to last or last syllable. Now, before I move on to what it actually sounds like, I want to make an important distinction here. In the case of Kadma ve'azla, it is actually important where it falls in the word in terms of syllables. If the azla falls on the first syllable of the word, it is not, I repeat, it is not an azla. It is actually a Geresh. See, if you remember what I said before, that the Gershayim was two Gereshes. This is where it comes from. Because when you have the azla on the first syllable of the word, it is no longer an azla, it is a Geresh, and it has a different melody. What does the Kadma ve'azla sound like? The Kadma ve'azla sounds like this. Kadma ve'azla. That's the Kadma ve'azla. What does the Kadma Geresh sound like? Kadma Geresh. That is what the Kadma Geresh sounds like. Why am I splitting those two up into two different formulas instead of just doing one? Because the melody is different if the azla / Geresh is on a different syllable. Now, the azla will always follow a Kadma. No questions, it will always follow a Kadma. However, a Geresh, where it appears on the first syllable, might appear by itself. So if it appears by itself, it's just Geresh. And that's really what you need to know. Where can you find a Kadma ve'azla? Or in this case, I guess, a Kadma Geresh that people have multi-purposed as a Kadma ve'azla. Like I mentioned for the Gershayim, the third paragraph of the Shema has a Kadma ve'azla formula. What does it sound like in the Shema? It sounds like this. Velo taturu acharei levavchem ve'acharei einechem. The key bit here is the velo taturu. That is an example in practice. Because the Kadma ve'azla is kind of doing a graphic motion going 1, 3, 3, 5, 3, 6, 5, or that's the Geresh, but the azla would be 1, 3, 3, 3, 6, 5. If it helps to move your hands where they need to go to kind of remember the contour of the melody, do that. Whatever you need to do to learn it properly, find the trick that works for you. Whether that's flashcards, or movement, or just repeating over and over and over again, find the bit that works for you. That is the Kadma ve'azla or Kadma Geresh formula. So those are all of the formulas that I plan to go through in this video. Keep practicing. Behatzlacha. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave those questions in the comments or to send me an email directly with the questions that you have. As always, like and subscribe. Come back next week. Have a good weekend.